We're ready to roll.
Is that your way of saying that we're recording?
I don't know. We've never come up with this, right? Now
We,
we are
we need
recording.
a need a clapper or something. I don't know. We need something. Hey, welcome back to us chatting about NBA. It's been what 2 weeks since we last recorded.
2 weeks.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to be honest. We don't have the viewership for me to push through while I'm sick. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. If we had more people watching every week, I would get up here and cough and splutter my guts out. But no, I took the rest. I took the rest. Do you have any issues with that?
I actually didn't know you were taking the rest. I thought you were busy, but you were busy being sick. There you go. That's a reason to be
I'm
busy,
busy being
right?
sick, man. I just couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. I was legitimately, we throw the term around. I was dying, but I felt like I was dying. I had a nothing weekend. I rested for 2 straight days, and then I had a very busy week while being sick. So, um, yeah, that's where we're at. But no one cares. No one cares about this.
Does that mean you're getting more basketball while you're sick, or you're just like just doing nothing,
You know what?
sleeping?
So that's a great conversation. And wow, what a segue. Yeah, so I actually got to watch some NBA. Normally, I'm doing some stuff or I'm a big gamer, so I don't usually watch a lot of TV. But I was just bedridden. I was like, I'll chuck some NBA on. And fortunately, it synced up with the in-season tournament, the grand finale. I got to actually watch that live. And I don't probably watch more than, say, 10, 20 games live throughout the year. And a lot of those games come in the playoff time. So, one, for anyone who's watching, do follow a team. Follow a team and actually watch a game because it's really important to watch how a game operates versus highlights because in highlights it doesn't capture something. And I guess I'm leading into the first one, which I want to talk about the Pacers specifically. And I watched the Pacers live. They are fast, right? Like we hear all the statistics, right? Their pace, their offensive ratings really, really quick. But when you watch them, you actually see the inbound speed, right? And it's very reminiscent of the 7 seconds and 7 seconds or less Suns. And obviously Tyrese Halliburton's at the point there. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's infographics come up where they compare Steve Nash's MVP seasons with Tyrese Halliburton's, but Tyrese is averaging like double the points and a couple of more assists. So he's clearly at a different stage than Steve Nash was when he won the MVPs. But the Pacers are fast. And the reason why I'm just like re-emphasizing that is that the Pacers are really, really fast. Really fast. They're not going to win anything. I think very similar to how the 7 seconds or less Suns operated back in the mid 2000s. It's not sustainable in a playoff series. And it's very dependent on their ability to hit threes, which the Pacers weren't hitting threes in that in-season tournament. But it's an interesting style of play. It's surprising that Rick Carlisle is playing it, considering all his tenure with the Mavs, etc., and how it was a bit more half-court orientated. But I guess what I'm posing to you is, let's say that they commit to the 7 seconds or less kind of offense scheme. Who is a player that they need to target moving forward? Because they don't have the personnel currently to really optimize this style of play.
Well, you've loaded this first topic up, haven't you, man? The Pacers play with pace, hey? That's a headline
Yeah.
in itself. And then you then set the scene here by suggesting that I should watch, or just a fan should actually watch a whole game instead of just highlights, right? which is what
Take
I
what
was
you
going
want,
to
yeah.
say. I tuned into the highlights for the in-season finale for the NBA Cup, and it was a bit of a blowout, obviously, so it wasn't really that exciting in the last few minutes or anything like that. So look, I guess I can't say firsthand that I've seen the Pacers play with this pace that you're describing at this point. But I guess I must say that I think they're definitely an up and coming team right now. Whether they're seventh on the in the East at the moment, it's sort of log jam still at this point of the season, and they could easily finish top six, top four, maybe even potentially if they sort of peak at the right time of the season. But they're probably not legitimate contenders yet. Yeah, that's probably what you're saying, right? What pieces here could really help what they're doing at the moment to help push them over the edge as legitimate contenders. And it feels like they're probably a piece or two away, and probably at least a few years away before you sort of really talk about them in the sort of top four or top two in the East sort of conversation. Um, yeah, look, I don't know. How about I throw a name out there as I'm looking at the standings here, and team just below them, Cleveland. All right now, I think they've got final here of Donovan Mitchell, right? What if you could pair a high scoring, slashing, established guard next to Halliburton? That's potentially one way to go where now you've got, a much more experienced backcourt to contend with versus I think at the moment there's a lot of youth, I think, still at the Pacers at the moment, and some of these players are stepping up, starting to prove themselves. Probably will have reasonable careers in that sort of sense. But come playoff time, a lot of them I don't think have seen any minutes in that point of the season yet.
No, and look, you look at things like Obi Toppin, who obviously people felt the Knicks didn't capitalize on his talents, but he's thriving in the system, and that's the thing. You think of someone, Donovan Mitchell. I think any suggestion's a good suggestion because clearly in that pace and the offensive rating that they generate, and the way that Tyrese Halliburton's averaging close to 12 assists, but when I watched that game, the amount of shots that he's creating, and that's probably a stat that I know that we don't want on the box score, but I think we need to really look at. He probably generates a solid 30 to 40 shots for his team. He really is a driver for that offense. And not like, he's not funneling the stats by holding the ball for 20 seconds and then generating the last second assist. He's pushing it up within the first 3 seconds, finding that corner three. I think the first play of the game, you kind of see that. In terms of players, ironically, I don't want to, it's easy to go straight for the biggest name, but Steph Curry would probably be a great comparison. And what Tyrese Halliburton probably needs
is comparison to what?
Well, he needs his Clay. So Tyrese needs a Clay Thompson. Tyrese needs a player who isn't ball dominant and can have 60 points off 11 dribbles, can actually be a spot up shooter or, set screens and create shots like that. I think he's not going to get Clay Thompson. I don't actually know who that player is in the league currently.
Isn't Clay available end of this year too, potentially? I think he's on expiring.
I think expiring double injured Clay is probably not the play.
Not the way to go. Who would you suggest? Drop a name in here that would be a perfect partner for the Pacers to take the next step.
So, a player like Keegan Murray, not that the Kings would give him up, but I think, you look at what Keegan Murray is doing with his 3-point shooting and his off-ball kind of style of play, especially pairing with De'Aaron Fox. Someone like him is quite interesting, so to speak. I know it sounds odd. Joe Ingles isn't the pair, but you wonder what a Joe Ingles would look like on this team, right? But that's I think, the style or the direction that the Pacers need to look into. Buddy Hield is a really good 3-point shooter. He still continues to track in that weird category where he's on pace with Klay Thompson and Damian Lillard in his career. But he's not fitting the style of play because I actually think Buddy Hield needs more off the dribble shots. And that's the thing. You need Tyrese with a multitude of spot-up shooters, but obviously can catch on the run. But then you probably almost need someone like a Clint Capella as well, right? So Miles Turner's obviously a stretch big, but you probably do need that screen and roll guy that can actually catch it. I wonder if, easiest comparison, but what if you switched him and Trae Young, right? And so Tyrese Halliburton's playing with the personnel that's on the Hawks. And do you think that they would be a more successful team with that? I know I've posed a different question to you now.
I think it's a really fascinating situation. We actually go back few steps here. That Halliburton was behind De'Aaron Fox at the Kings, right? And that's effectively why they moved him, because they played the same position, and there were not the opportunities and minutes there. I think the reality here is that Tyrese Halliburton, being given this larger role and being a starter at Pacers, has given him this opportunity to shine. And, you could probably think all the way back to James Harden. James Harden, when he left OKC and then got all the minutes and got all the touches and became a starter, all-star, superstar at the Rockets sort of situation. And yeah, look, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he went to the Hawks or any other team that made him their lead guard, he would succeed. And he would probably put up similar numbers in that sort of sense. Would they win as much or not? There's so many variables there in that sense. But and I think that's an interesting case there. As you think about that as a wider question, though, there are a lot of players out there that probably would. Well, I'd say, I'd say a lot. Yeah, I said a lot of players that would really succeed, or at least from a stats perspective and even a winning perspective, with simply a larger role. But that's the challenge of basketball, isn't it? There's only 5 guys on the court, and there's only 48 minutes of the game.
Yeah, look, I think obviously Tyrese Halliburton as well, his ball usage, statistically, it's probably lower than players like Luka Doncic and Trae Young, etc. But that is a byproduct of him getting the ball out of his hands quicker. But that doesn't change the fact that he is the driver of the offense. So you do need players to fit around with him. I just think the Pacers are interesting. It's probably... it'll be interesting to see how this season goes. Obviously, I think they have playoff contentions. I don't think that's too outlandish to say at this point. They'll probably finish around that 4th, 5th seed, maybe a 6th seed at worst. But it'll be interesting to see where they go moving forward, because obviously the Tyrese Halliburton was the right pick, and they've got players like Miles Turner and Buddy Hield who you've consistently heard in trade rumors. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. Maybe even a Zach LaVine. Maybe that's Zach LaVine's landing spot. Who knows? I don't know.
I think you alluded a little bit before about 7 seconds or less and playing with pace and Steve Nash. And I think it's a real dangerous area nowadays for, and I'm not saying you're inexperienced, obviously, you know, I know you know your history in that sense, but for an inexperienced NBA fan to suggest that all these players are better, yeah, than these historical players that came before them, because it's a whole different era now. The style of play, the pace, the rules, what's focused on, what's, all these little things. This is why it's so challenging when you have those good debates like right now. You're talking about Steve Nash and Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously, the most common one is Michael Jordan and LeBron James, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and I think that's where statistics is such a difficult one to consider from a historical perspective, because it's not just numbers. It's not just numbers, and yeah, look, what would Steve Nash be able to do in today's league? That's the big question, right? 25 and 15 assists. I don't know.
Well, I mean, as someone who obviously adores Steve Nash, you've listened. He was on the JJ Redick podcast, and he kind of reflected on the fact, his shooting, his amount of shot attempts was actually quite low. So, you wonder if he played with the current modern standards of chucking up 23s in a game. His stats would be inflated. You're totally right. I guess to bring it full circle, stats, points, and 3-point attempts, they're probably the stats that are very error defined. As you go back, they stay lower, or they fluctuate a little bit more. But I think the one stat that kind of holds true is assists, right? So we've always had a couple of players who are 10 assists per game sort of players. That's been over the last 15, 20 years. But how they get their 10 or so assists is quite interesting, right? So Chris Paul is pick and roll maestro. So very slow pace, but gets a lot off the pick and roll, very efficient off that. And then obviously Tyrese right now is thriving off the fast pace generated offense. Probably Steve Nash a little bit similar on that front as well. But assists are pretty consistent, right? And John Stockton as well is the easiest example, because he's currently got the career record, and no one's going to touch it unless they figure out how to average 16 assists per game, really.
I've never really thought about it. So as you're talking about this topic here, we're going to see more and more players average more and more assists. And that's simply statistically driven by the fact that the games are scoring more. The more you score, the more buckets are had. Therefore, the more chances of generating assists occur. And I think if anything, as you know, man, records are made to be broken, right? whether we'll see someone beat, John Stockton's record in our lifetime or not, that's a huge question there. Players to come along and has the longevity and the opportunity and the vision, I guess, to be able to, set up their teammates, more times than Stockton did in that sense. But, if anything, this era here of this scoring 140, 150 points a game and, sort of where it's trending, it's not that far-fetched, I don't think, that record is broken at some point.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Tyrese is going to be the one to do it, but it's going to need a very specific set of circumstances. But I don't think people have tuned in to listen to us talk about the Pacers for 20 minutes. So I'm gonna
you raised the Pacers.
No, look, we're integrity driven. We do what we need to do. But you know what? I'll sneak in my second point because it links with the in-season tournament. And I guess it's really a question of Anthony Davis. I want to sell my stocks. I actually sold my stocks already, and then I bought some back, and I want to sell them again because I'm always weary that he's going to get hurt and he's going to go down. And we've had this conversation in our fantasy league as well. He's 28 and 12, 3 blocks. He's fantastic. He is playing fantastic, and the Lakers look legitimate purely because of his style of play. But we're only 25 games in. He's been really good for those 20 so games, and obviously the in-season tournament, he probably just set 2 records that. You only get one shot a year to break in the future. I think he'll hold on to the points record and rebounds record for a couple of years at least. But I want to sell my stocks. And I don't like. I need your navigation with this. You know, especially as someone who owns him in fantasy. Like, am I right to feel like I should bail on him every single game, but also I would regret that choice if I ever did it?
It's I feel like I'm gonna give you a real maybe a glass half full take here, right? And because I guess like you said, I got AD on my fantasy team. I got Zion Williamson on my fantasy team. I just traded for LaMelo Ball, who's out at the moment and hasn't got a real timeline back. But I'm working on some level of optimism that they're obviously going to remain healthier than they have been in previous years. And I'm not saying they're playing 82 games or anything like that, but I'm saying that they could play probably say 65 maybe, all right, which would probably be a win for these players that have generally averaged a lot of injuries throughout the course of the season. And I think that's the thing here, right? In any given day, you could wake up, check your headlines, and go, Giannis out, did his back, yeah, first quarter, which is what happened not that long ago. And one day we wake up and go, LeBron, yeah, let's go down the Kobe path, hobbles off, did his Achilles, yeah, that's it. Maybe he's done. Father Time's caught up with him, and I think that look, track record's something that definitely you do have to consider. I'm not saying that to ignore that at all. All right, but at the same time, there's probably a point where players do become healthy. Let's take Joel Embiid. Yeah, right now you'd have to say he's a pretty healthy guy. Yeah, he started his career was not, but right now he probably is. He just won MVP, and he's probably now become a much more reliable, player for the Sixers.
So very valid point with the Joel Embiid thing as well, right? And their stints, right? And that's, we've had conversations about Zion and why you wouldn't trade him because if he gets it healthy, the potential's too large to give up on. I guess maybe the better question is, and this is probably a broader scope because so much of an NBA narrative is around these injuries, Kawhi, Paul George, Zion, AD, they're classic, like, hey, why are they so injured all the time? But what is wrong with the average NBA mindset, of the fans, the viewers, even the analysts? Why can't we just be present? Why can't we just be present of, hey, this season, the 25 games that AD has presented us, he's been really good. And we don't think about last season, and you think about players in most improved category as well, like, they had breakout years. Why don't we hold their 7-point average against them from 3 years ago when they're averaging 20 something? Jimmy Butler's a good example of that. He started off his career, riding the bench, only averaging about 7 points. And now we kind of know him as, he can take a team to the finals. So, roundabout way, how do we stay present with players from both good and bad histories?
I think that's where maybe staying present, dude, just doesn't sell headlines, right? we all want the drama, isn't it? We all want the drama, and the headlines are, the more dramatic they can be, the more attention grabbing they are, right? You just get more eyes on, more clicks, more shares, and more comments, right? Positive or negative. I think, yeah, look, I think from my perspective, I got these players, like I said, I'm taking it one game at a time, 1 week at a time. I'm making them available. I'm aware that they have some level of risk associated with that. We'll come back to fantasy a bit more. I'll talk about that, I think, down later today. But at the same time, I'm definitely happy with how they're producing right now in that perspective, and our team should be too in the real life perspective, right? The Pelicans right now are competitive. Seventh at the moment, just outside the top six. The Lakers have got AD fairly healthy, just won the NBA Cup. It's I don't know. You just gotta cross your fingers sometimes because any player can go down, man. Could be Steph next time. I had Steph that season when he did his wrist and played 11 games. Yeah, that was a bummer. In fact, here's another fun fact. Here's a fun fact. A few years ago now, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, I traded for John Wall the game before he got injured, and that was his last game with the Wizards. Yeah. So you know what? Let's just say shit happens. Yeah, and that's injuries sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. I get what you're saying, but how do we not drive the narrative? You know what I mean? So like that John Wall conversation, like, he does his Achilles and that's it. But when John Wall returned from his injury, which took a very long time to do, we analyzed his style of play and said he doesn't have it anymore. And that was very present minded of us. But how come we didn't go on with the expectation that, he's going to come back and average 25 for the Clippers? Like, why didn't we think that?
Because he's injured. Because he's old. Like, let's say LeBron did his Achilles right now. Would we really seriously think he's going to come back and put up what he's putting up now? The stats he's putting up, what, 25, 7, 8, and 8 or something like that? Yeah.
Well, I guess you think of someone like Durant who kind of defied that expectation, right? He had an Achilles injury,
But
and
Durant was
he's
younger.
yeah, but LeBron also continues to exceed the expectations of an age
It's,
person. So
it's a great debate, and like Kobe couldn't overcome that. And you'd imagine that if anyone, Kobe would have been a player that could have overcome that. Here's a whole what if, yeah, which I've never even thought about. But like, what if Kobe did not do his Achilles and have those? I think he had two fairly severe injuries just before his significant decline. Yeah, would he have continued to play at a significantly higher level, all right, for more seasons? Who knows, right? That's the point. But injuries, as you know firsthand, now this is your point in the week. You can talk about your injuries. is that they do affect how you play, and unfortunately, you never get some of these things back, right? I think that's probably the reality.
yeah, yeah, I guess it's just interesting to see someone like AD kind of defying all those expectations. But I guess again to counter myself, what has been his big injury, right? Like, what is like? Kobe, it's like, oh, the Achilles. He did his Achilles. Clay, it's the ACL and it's the Achilles. John Wall, it's the Achilles. But what's AD's injury? It just everything,
He's always
but
hurt, right?
nothing serious.
It's like, well, then
Yeah,
maybe that's good
that's
news
the
for
thing.
him. Maybe that's good news for him. So maybe this is the year that he just has a lot of little niggly stuff, but nothing that actually crosses that line, and he'll get 65, 70 games. I don't know. That's what I'm hoping for, unless someone wants to trade for him. So, yeah. But I guess look, that sort of leads into we mentioned just before, like Giannis, he just went down with injury last season, right? In an untimely manner in the first round of the playoffs. He came back, I know, but he wasn't 100%. That was pretty clear. And obviously the Bucks lost that first round. But I guess he's made the headlines a little bit, and we're talking about drama just before as well, right? About he really wanted the game ball. Yeah, like is that like? And I feel like it's something that we probably need to just touch upon here, man. Like, firstly, I read the article. I thought, firstly, is this a troll job? Like, this other team took the game ball because this other guy scored 1 point and got one rebound on his debut game, and then Giannis has decided then to double up on that to run into like down the locker room area and stuff like that to try and retrieve the ball. And then I think that article ends. He got a ball, but he doesn't even know if it was the game ball or not because there's three game balls anyway on any given game.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I think I actually don't think it's centered around the game ball conversation. I think it's centered around the fact that we actually might have inadvertently created a rivalry. So this regular season matchup directly follows on from the Bucks losing to the Pacers in the in-season tournament, and obviously Tyrese giving them a bit of the Dame time celebration as well. There's a bit of beef between these two teams now, and if you watch the highlights, which I did, Giannis actually broke the scoring record with 58, and then he went out, right? And I was watching the highlights, and I was kind of confused because I was like, oh,
Yeah,
he's checked out of the game with
why are they playing him
58.
at that point? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. So they gave him a standing ovation. He checked out of the game. I think they're up by like 15 or so. And I'm like, okay, cool. The Pacers made a run. So the Pacers actually got it, I think, within 10 or 9. And then that's when Milwaukee decided, let's get the starters back in. And Giannis obviously just continued to dominate. And that's how the score got back out to being about 15 or so. But clearly the Pacers felt a certain way. There was a hard foul on Tyrese Halliburton. There was the hard foul on Giannis. And then obviously Giannis checking back in after already seeing a career high. It's an interesting thing. There was clearly a lot of animosity in the air that night. And the game ball conversation is just an extra, it's like icing on the cake. But I really don't think that the game ball is the key point there. I actually think there is now a rivalry between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Pacers.
Look, I don't know if I would go that far. I think there's rivalries across the board, right? I think whether it's sort of like how much you sort of buy into it or not. I think, again, these teams, everyone takes pride in their results, right? It's you're not every team's not the Washington Wizards. Remember the fans said they too bad. They're bad, okay, and they're only not so bad because you got the Pistons right now being even worse, okay. So I guess that's the current landscape of the NBA. So look, I don't know whether there's a growing rivalry there with the Bucks or the Pacers, man. Look, I honestly don't know, but maybe it turns into melee, and then something goes crazy there, perhaps so. But yeah, look, I think the Pacers are an up and coming team. The Bucks have been NBA champions already. There's always going to be that pecking order where you have to sort of move past these teams that are ahead of you in that sort of sense. So, but it's a funny point here, man. If I had a good game back in the day when I was a junior basketball player, could I have run away with the game ball too?
No, probably not at a junior level.
Why not?
But yeah, I don't know. I used to take photos. I used to take photos of the electronic score computer. Like if I had like 30 or 40, I'd be like, oh, I'll get a snap of that. But yeah, look, I don't know, man. I think I think the weird part is like, and this is a side conversation, but like when you think of the great players, you don't really think of their career high game, right? Like with Giannis, I feel like his game
Besides
six
Kobe.
against the
Besides
Suns,
Kobe.
where he had 50. No, but Kobe's 81 is a second of all time. That's different. But like, what's LeBron's career high? What's Melo's career high? What's Wade's career high? What's Steph's career high? Like, we don't think about that. We think about the moments. Like, I think we've had this conversation in the past. We just think about moments. For Giannis, he's 50 in Game 6 of the finals. That's better than his 64 against the Pacers in a regular season game. Like, I think we like the career high games are funny like that. And they can happen on any night, as evident, right? Like it's what the start of December
Well,
before
apparently,
Christmas. Oh yeah, Giannis.
maybe there's something that we're learning about Giannis here. Like, obviously, I'm not a significant Giannis fan, yeah, in that sense. But apparently today, didn't he just break the Bucks record for all-time rebounds? And then I think he then took on another game ball. And then the
Yeah.
article continues to go, and he's got a whole office similar to yourself, man. Going to get your own office down the track right next year. That he's got a whole office to put aside all his basketballs and singlets and trophies he's collected, and he's going to do something with it. So maybe there's something important for him. Maybe one day, we might travel through the states and there'll be the Giannis Museum, and there'll be all his basketballs when he got rebounds and got points and stuff like. I had a good game, man. I don't know, man, but yeah, look, it was
Well,
an interesting
either
take.
that, either that, or here's a flyer. What if he's just an investor, right? So he goes and gets all this stuff, and he's going to sign it, and then when he's retired, and he's like, you know what, I've run out of money, or I have an emergency fund. I'll just go and auction off my game balls that I
I,
got that are signed, and people pay some money for
I just feel like Giannis is not going to really run out of money in his lifetime, all right? But hey,
it.
look,
He
he's
might
going
be
to
all
turn
right.
to Charles Barkley or something, or MJ with some gambling habit, right? And just throw away all his money. I don't know, man. But well, I guess talking about throwing away money, hey, man, we should probably talk about Draymond, right? Because he's the guy that seems to like to throw away his money, and man, like I said, I read the Giannis thing. I thought this was a bit of a troll job. I sort of looked at the Draymond articles and watched some video there too, and I was like, the NBA has some funny moments throughout the course of the season. It's like, I don't know how you were trying to sell anybody except the person in your head that you were trying to sell a foul there by swinging your arm. And
Because he sells with his arms.
I
Sells with his
sell
arms.
fouls by swinging my arms, man. It was like, I don't know, remember years ago, and I don't remember, I think he got a game or two, but I guess, Artest swung his arms as well and hit, I think, James Harden in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, or swung his
He was
elbow. Yeah, I
excited.
was like, oh,
He was excited.
he was excited and bang, elbow in like Harden's face or something. And it was similar to that, except the problem here was like Draymond's obviously already in the bad books. He's like trying to double up and triple up like Ja Morant did, right? And he's just really testing the NBA sort of patience in that capacity. And look, I don't know, man. What's your take on it? Is Draymond done at the Warriors? Can he actually get his stuff together? We talk about a lot about mental health now, so it's like it feels like a whole topic now. Is Draymond okay? Are you okay, Draymond? Like, I don't know, man. What's going on? Like, what do you think?
That has been the push, right? So obviously the indefinite suspension is around his health, and that seems to be the PR spin that the Warriors are taking. I think the hard part is that this isn't any different to the player that we've seen over the last 10 years. Everyone's acting like, oh, he's going through something right now. And I was like, you know what he's probably going through? He's always been intense, but he was younger. He was younger and his body could keep up. I remember, this is a shout out to my dad, because my dad said the funniest thing. We were playing local basketball. I think I was like 14 at the time. He was playing with me. It's a classic father-son scenario. You'd know all about it. And I think he's like 44 at the time, and he's trying to stay in front of someone, right? He's trying to stay in front of someone, and he couldn't do it because he's too old, right? And so what he ends up doing is basically just tackling the guy. He just tackles the guy, and then the guy punches him in the face, right? Because he's like, what the hell? You just tackled me. Right. My dad's pretty mild-mannered, you know that. Like, he ain't interested in that. And he tells me afterwards, not only did he get banned from playing after that, my mum was like, you can't keep playing anymore. You need to be an adult. But he was basically like, look, my head knew what I wanted to do, but my body couldn't do it. And maybe Draymond, now that he's always been flamboyant with the antics and he's always doing extra stuff, he's just one of those guys. But now that he's older, right, he can't sell it the way he wants to sell it. Like he can't sell it with his arms without flailing them like that. He can't break up a fight without putting you in a sleeper hold. Like he's just not that person anymore where he can be subtle. Like he's just old. He's older. This is what happens.
I feel
You give
I love your take. I just want to clarify here. So the guy your dad tackled was not yourself, right? It was some guy who was playing against. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. He was just playing against some guy, and that guy obviously had white line fever. Like that's not an appropriate reaction. But then also my dad as well. Like in my head, in his head, my dad felt I could get in front of him, I could draw a charge, or I
All
could
right.
I could get the strip. But in reality, he just looked like he tackled the guy. He was too
Okay.
slow and he tackled him.
Well, we've all seen that. I think we've all seen that, man. You watch some of the guys that getting a bit older, and I'm getting a bit older too. I don't really want to need to watch my own videos sometimes anymore. But I get it. But look, going back to Draymond, man, I think maybe he should need just maybe he could add a bit of a dose of honesty now. Now that he's obviously a vet, he's a four-time champion in that sense, and when he swings his arms around, he just goes, "Oh man, I didn't realize I was losing my balance. I was just old, man. I didn't mean to hit him in the face." I think would buy that one in a little bit more than I'm trying to sell it. I'm trying to sell it, get a foul call here, just like last season when he was trying to land his foot somewhere and decided to just stand on the guy's chest. These are highly far-fetched I think notions that he's trying to sell, which is probably not helping his cause at the moment. And yeah, look, I don't know, man. I think I was quite hard on the Warriors this year. I must say I'm probably cooling on them. Look, they're still a team that's maybe a dark horse at the very least, but are they now a true contender? You'd probably have to say I think the window is now closed.
Yeah, look, you look at their steep decline from winning a championship to then, you know, barely beating the Kings, who make the playoff for the first time in 20 years. And then obviously just getting really like trounced by the Lakers, who then go on to get absolutely swept by the Nuggets. So sometimes it's always nice to hypothesize around, well, what if the Warriors beat the Lakers? Then are they more competitive with Denver? And I think the average person would say, absolutely not. Denver was going to kill them. So, the water finds its level in that sense. And when you look at the Warriors, they are slipping. Clippers are starting to figure it out. Phoenix is getting healthier and they're starting to figure it out. And they're the teams that are now leapfrogging them. And yeah, I don't know where the Warriors go from here. Like not only do you have the issue with Draymond being indefinitely suspended and Clay obviously being in a decline, but then like Wiggins just isn't doing anything for you anymore after a really encouraging finals run and a really good season last year up until the absence. Your young guys aren't popping off. And, Kevon Looney is a role player at best. We don't have any expectations of him. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like, like the wheels are just falling off everywhere. You know what I mean? Like we can't just point at Clay and be like, it's his decline. We can't just look at Draymond and say it's his decline. It's nothing's taking off and half of it's falling apart. Steph Curry is amazing, but, maybe Steph Curry is entering the career stat padding phase of his career, right? Where it's not about championships now. It's just about solidifying his things. He's got 3,500 threes. He can probably get to 4,000 pretty easy. How much further can he push that? Does he want to rack up his points? He'll probably get to 25,000 points if he keeps going. Can he get the assist up?
I think
That's it.
I think the Warriors have a real question they need to ask themselves at the trade deadline and moving into the next year or two. That are they willing to sort of tear it all down and what's next? Because isn't that the hardest part of a championship team? And then there's obviously the flip side of tearing it down too early, right? It's like the Lakers recently, they won that ring and then they just basically just let everyone go and traded everyone for what Westbrook. Yeah, it was like that was crazy in itself. So I think that's probably the reality where the Warriors are at the moment. They're gonna have to have a really hard look at and what they've got now. What can they get for what they've got? And then where do they go from here? They've got some nice younger pieces. Do they give them a bit more of opportunity to play? Whether that gives them the wins effectively right now or not, maybe not. Does that make them greater trade assets if some of these younger pieces start to put up some reasonable numbers and impact winning? These are quite legitimate considerations there. But looking at the standings right now, it's hard to see them look, it's hard to see them play finishing top six right now. And I know it's still early days, but the teams above them, the only one that really sort of goes, oh, this team is probably exceeding expectations in the West right now is the Rockets. Everyone else, and let's say Zion stays healthy enough to play 60, 70 games, hopefully this season, the Pelicans are probably going to continue to, be in that top six, around that top six conversation. All these other teams should be where they are right now, and then there's no numbers there, there's no spot there for the Warriors to fit in, considering Draymond's out at the moment, Clay's shooting like horrible, Wiggins is now a bench, it's craziness.
Well, I think sometimes we can get really caught up in the wins, right? So obviously the Warriors are 12 and 14, and you're like, okay, yeah, look, they're chugging along. They're in the strongest division, the Pacific Division. That's the weakest team in the Pacific Division, but they'd actually be, third or fourth in other divisions. But I guess for context, there are only 4 losses in front of Memphis, who have just been decimated with their team. And that when you say that out loud, obviously Ja's returning, so Memphis has the potential to become competitive with them and vie for that play-in spot, so to speak. And then even a team like the Jazz, if they go on a mini run, do they start to figure it out? And then it's probably a bit more preposterous, but the Trailblazers and Spurs as well, if they string together a small win streak while the Warriors keep sliding, we're having a different conversation in a week or two's time. So my optimism for the Warriors is gone. I don't think it's probably a conversation that a lot of media outlets will jump on about mid-year when the record starts to lock them into something, which will probably be shut it down or rebuild. But it's been a fantastic run. And I think especially in the modern era, probably a whole other conversation another week. But I think to string together multiple finals and multiple championships in this era where there's 30 teams and the depth of talent across the league is quite high. I think that's quite impressive. So
look, I think all good things come to end, right? which is slightly where we're leading into here. Right? All good things come into the end, and now I'm drawing. I feel like I've been the most unlucky fantasy owner all season long. Hear my rant right now, yeah? This last week, I shot like 52%, 53% from the field. Yet I still lost that category because somehow the other team shot a higher field goal percentage than me too. And then let's say next week, obviously I've drawn Matt's team and he's getting Ja Morant back. But look, hopefully he's rusty. All right, comes back, shoots 4 from 20, and I win a percentage. Which then leads me to a question here because obviously Matt's a good mate of yours, yeah. What the hell is he harping on about percentages all the time right now? I don't get it. What's going on, man? Am I missing something?
So when you first chimed in about your disgruntled league status, you were harping on about percentages. So what we've done collectively while you were out of the group chat, we have collectively decided that we're gonna remind you that it's a ridiculous stance to take. So we'll always take the opportunity to mention percentages.
I can't get an inside joke if I don't actually know the inside joke. So I'm like, well, what the hell?
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. Because it's just really funny that you were harping on about the percentages. You know what? I would say, especially this week, as someone who wasn't a beneficiary of percentages, I actually think there's some merit to it because I'm going to read you a couple of stats this week because I had a very good week, like a very good week.
And you only went 5 and 4.
Well, it's recorrected to 6 and 3.
Oh, man, you got another stat correction in your favor. Is that what the hell's going on? That's 2 now.
all right. But you look at my rebound differential. It's 108. I have 108 more rebounds than my opponent. I have 105 more assists. I have 13 more threes, 27 more blocks, and I have almost 200 points. I've had a really strong week.
Do you want the goal or something? I don't know. Where's this trending?
Where this is heading is that I lost 2 of the percentage categories, and I don't win turnovers. I'm never going to win turnovers. But it meant that my opponent was competitive. And, before having the 3-point percentage correction, my opponent was competitive with me. And that means that I wasn't a clear runaway for having stat patters, right? Like, I do have to move forward thinking, do I need to make an adjustment? How can I get my stats while also keeping the percentages? So I think there's some merit to the percentages. I think they have a place. But moving forward, it's a big week for me. It's a big week for me. It's a big week for you because you're slowly climbing out of last place, which, is an underrated storyline of our fantasy, but that's okay. But it's a big week for me because I'm finally playing, I guess, my competition right now. Playing them who are first in the other division. I've got the slight edge in the record. I'm 38, 22, and 3. They're 36, 26, and 1. But I'm not feeling good because somebody went and gave them Ant Edwards. The man already has Giannis, Shea, and Joel Embiid. He already has 3 of the top 5 players in the league, and you went and gave him Ant Edwards, who was kind of having a breakout season, maybe a top 10 caliber player, and you traded him for LaMelo Ball, who has the ankles equivalent to my knees. Why did this get passed?
Firstly, every owner has a opportunity to veto this trade, right? So what happened there? There's like 4 other league owners here, right? So, fantasy owners here. So, if it's such an issue, then why was this trade not vetoed?
I don't know.
Maybe this trade is actually.
Maybe there needed to be more consultation.
Maybe
2 minutes.
Maybe this trade is actually quite like for like. Maybe it's not as far-fetched as you think it is. Maybe LaMelo Ball, if he comes back healthy, which I'm banking on that glass half full, right, is equivalent, if not a better player, potentially than Ant Edwards. And I guess that's where I sit on my side of making this trade. Is it not logical?
Look, he had a really good stretch right until he got injured. I think he was averaging 13, 12, and 11 or something. Like, he was averaging a really strong stat line. But you're talking about a guy, like when we talked about the injury risk before, I feel like he currently, especially for a young player, which is, when you think about, like, I look at my team, I look at Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton, Victor and Chet. I've banked on a lot of young guys, but young guys play. But LaMelo doesn't play that much. Like, I don't know. Like, he's got like Gordon Hayward and him.
As long as he's healthy, he'll play. You're saying when he's not healthy, he won't play. Of course.
Yeah, but he's not healthy a lot. And for a guy that young, that's not a great thing. And he's going to get his stats on Charlotte, but like, I don't think Ant was worth giving up. I think that Ant, it's good.
I told you everyone was available for sale on my team, man. And you could, if you wanted Ant Edwards, you could make me an offer. You could give me Chet for Ant Edwards. I probably would have considered that, or maybe even, if you wanted to really part with Wemby. Look, I've got a few offers out there, man. I gave you an offer for Luka. I got an active offer for Luka out there.
That was a terrible offer. That was a terrible offer, by the way.
Again, what did I give you? I gave you.
Okay, I think I declined it finally, but you wanted me to give up Victor.
Okay.
Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Maxey for Luka
and
Bradley Beal, who you waived because he got injured on the same day you offered me that trade. I've actually got to go into your team to figure this out.
I thought you wanted to just collect all the Suns, but hey, that's a bit of a joke inside.
Hey man,
maybe I didn't explain the joke to you. But who was the other player? I gave you 3. It was probably 3, right? Surely there was one more player. I'm trying
to.
Was it AD or was it?
No, it wasn't AD. Zion? That was the thing. No, it's whoever your 16-point average guy is. Who's your 16-point average? Maybe. No, you gave me. You offered me. You offered me
from your junk inbox now.
I don't even think you've got the guy on the team anymore. I don't even think he's on the team anymore.
Look, maybe right now, what's happening in real time is that if you like Luka, let's talk about it. Like, what would you give me for Luka? Who is tradable on your team that you would like? Because surely any fantasy owner would like to get Luka for the right price.
Yeah, look, I think when I looked at that list, obviously Luka, is essentially a 30-point triple-double, and also has those explosive nights. He does average a high turnovers and can have a bad percentage. That's okay. I'm not going to hold that against him. But you wanted me to give up Jalen Brunson, who averages 25.5. 6 assists, 4 rebounds, and Tyrese Maxey, who also averages essentially the same stats, along with Victor, who especially this week, really came into his own.
We have to find this other player that I added in this trade because I don't think it's as bad as you think it was.
Insulting. It was insulting. I didn't know what to do. I checked my phone. I think you sent it while I was asleep. I woke up. I was like, do I go back to bed? Like, what do I do?
Maybe you just half asleep and click the wrong button. Accept, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm not sure. I don't even think they're on your roster anymore. I sincerely believe that. I do not think they're on your roster. Maybe it was Kyrie. You were trying to. honestly,
I don't think it
you
was
know, I
fair.
thought we had a better. I thought we had a better relationship than that. I'm going to be honest.
I
You know,
honestly think it was a better trade offer than what you're actually making out right
no,
now. All right,
no, 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 no,
but
no. It's not.
I
No,
can't.
look, we we have dedicated a lot of time to a podcast that no one watches, and that's how you treat me with bad trades. That's ridiculous. That's outrageous.
So now this you feel the same way about me as I feel about Matt.
No, that trade's good. I don't know what you're talking about. You're getting two really good players
Two really
for
good
one. I
players.
just don't get it. I just don't get it. You got a weird stance against the Clippers. You got that injury mindset. They're having a good season. They're playing well. Leave them alone.
So as a final trade offer here, you'd give me Chet and Jalen Brunson for Luka.
Yeah, I'd do that. Yeah, are you kidding?
Would you actually do that?
Yeah, Chet. Yeah, I would give up Chet. I would give up.
But then now you obviously going for this blocks freaking crown. Like you just want as many blocks as possible, even though you're already leading blocks and you've got players that can never Chet just got 9 blocks in a game, man. That was crazy, man. You surely want to trade this kid.
Yeah, because Victor does what Chet does, but Chet has better percentages. But Chet, from what obviously because I'm tracking their games, Chet's ceiling and floor is bigger than Wemby's ceiling and floor. Wemby has bad games and still probably has 10 and 10. Whereas when Chet has a bad game or a quiet game, because I don't want to say it's bad, he doesn't shoot terribly. When he has a quiet game, he might have 11 and 4 or 11 and 5. And yes, you get these really nice games. He had 7 earlier in the season, then he had 9, and it was almost a triple-double. But he doesn't have bigger games. Admittedly, I would probably tank my percentages more by losing him too. So that is a consideration. But I feel like, yes, if you offered me Luka and that, I would accept that quite easily.
Who else is tradable on your roster? Are you still putting Wemby on the block, or are you now like Wemby's my?
No, actually, you know what? I feel like I like Wemby. I feel like I like what I get out of Wemby. He had a really good week.
What do you want for Maxi? What do you see Maxi's?
Oh, Maxi. You know what's ironic? Maxi, stat-wise, is pretty much doing what Jalen Brunson's doing, but you look at the fanfare around the two of them, and you would figure that Maxi's like leaps and bounds ahead of him, right? The only difference between Maxi and Brunson is Maxi shoots better from the free throw line. That's about it, and averages slightly less turnovers, but otherwise the stats are identical. So I'm getting good merit for that. Paolo has had big games. Like he had like 40-something points the other week, and then he has quiet games, so that's a hard one. I feel like Miles Bridges, that was a sneaky pickup, and, right now he's basically averaging 20 and 7. So, that's a thing. James Harden's starting to kind of like click with the Clippers, and he's been all right for me. So I think I've got prospective assets. I do feel like Tyrese Halliburton's untouchable. Jason Tatum, despite your stance on Jason Tatum, I'm having a great Jason Tatum year. Obviously, Devin Booker's pretty untouchable. I feel like Şengün, Victor, they're probably untouchable. Everyone else, maybe.
So just to wrap this up here, if my mega trade offer that I put on the table, I think 4 players for 3 or something like that, is not.
No, it was 3. It was 3 for 3, and it was insulting, and you dropped one of them.
No, not that trade. The current trade that's currently on the table.
What trade have you sent me? Just then?
No, not you. Not you that I've shared. Obviously, let me bring it up, man. I don't know who it is. Oh, it's to the guy that traded me. Traded me Ant Edwards. Traded Ant Edwards.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Hold on.
Yeah. So Embiid, SGA, Vucevic, and I'm giving him Luka, Gobert, AD, and Zion. Should this guy take this offer?
It's ambitious. I think the issue is SGA and Joel Embiid. I mean, Joel Embiid admittedly has an injury risk as well, so you could say there's a little bit of like for like with him and AD. But SGA is on another tier, so I think that's one thing as well. And, obviously Zion is high ceiling, low floor, and Gobert is probably the consistent piece. And Gobert and Vucevic feel like direct trades.
If you were that owner, would you take this trade? Yes or no?
No, because you've got 2 MVP candidates and you're only bringing back 1.
Okay, so if he turns it down and I give you Luka for Brunson and Chet, you would take that?
100%. 100%.
All right, you're hoping he turns it down then?
100%. He's going to turn it down. Why would you turn it down?
All right, sleep on it.
Yeah, no, I don't need to sleep on that. You can send that through tonight. I'll take that one straight away.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Happy holidays. My goodness.
Pressing that stop recording button now.